Back when I was a junior in high school, something happened that made me never want to use a public restroom alone again. I had a terrible stomach bug that day and had to make an emergency run to the bathroom during class. The hallways were empty, but as I rushed there, I heard this eerie whistling sound coming from the other end of the hall. I didn't think much of it until I realized the person whistling had followed me into the bathroom. I just wanted some privacy, but this guy, who I assumed was a janitor, kept whistling and humming the entire time I was in the stall. It was annoying and, frankly, really weird. When I finally came out to wash my hands, I tried to avoid eye contact, but then the man walked right up to me. He stood uncomfortably close, literally a foot away. I could feel his breath on my neck. When I turned to ask him what his problem was, he just gave me this stone-cold stare, followed by the most disturbing, twisted smile I've ever seen. I got out of there fast. Later that day, after school, my friends Liam, Mason, and I decided to take a shortcut through the woods to get to a local diner we loved. We were actually talking about that creepy encounter I had earlier. Mason mentioned he'd seen the guy around too, but never spoke to him. Then, in a moment of terrifying irony, we saw a figure standing on the trail ahead. Mason whispered, "Dude, isn't that the janitor?" It was him. We froze. He called out to us, asking if we wanted to hang out. A man in his 50s asking 3 teenagers to hang out in the woods? Huge red flag. We ignored him and started walking faster, but then he started jogging toward us. That's when I saw the knife in his hand. We sprinted for our lives, screaming for help, and didn't stop running until we reached the main road. We reported him the next day. The scariest part? The school administration had no idea who he was. He wasn't a janitor. He was a convicted predator who had been sneaking into the school pretending to work there. If we hadn't run that day, I don't think I'd be here telling this story. It was my sophomore year, just a regular Tuesday. My friends and I were in the cafeteria goofing off during lunch when the PA system crackled to life. It was our principal, Mr. Henderson, announcing a lockdown, but his voice, it was shaky, panicked. That's when I knew this wasn't a drill. Now I look back at this and realize how incredibly stupid we were. When the lights went out, instead of hiding under the tables, my buddy Caleb and I decided to sneak out the side door and into the hallway. We thought it would be funny. It wasn't. The hallway was pitch black. Suddenly, 3 loud gunshots echoed through the building, followed by screams. The reality of the situation hit us instantly. We panicked and bolted out the nearest exit, running across the soccer field toward the woods behind the school. We could hear sirens wailing as police cars swarmed the front entrance. We were terrified, not just of the shooter, but of getting caught by the cops and blamed for leaving. We hid in the brush for what felt like hours, trying to keep quiet. Eventually, a SWAT team sweeping the perimeter found us. They were aggressive, detaining us immediately. I was confused until later when they caught the actual shooter. The shooter was a kid from a rival school who came to target a specific student, but the creepy part, he looked almost exactly like me. Same height, same hair color, and we were even wearing similar clothes that day. The police initially thought I was the suspect trying to flee. I learned my lesson that day. When they say lockdown, you stay put. This happened on the very last day of my senior year. I should have been in biology class, but my teacher, Mr. Reynolds, was a total jerk who loved to humiliate students. I wasn't in the mood, so I skipped and went to hide in the back of the library to play games on my phone. The library was empty. Suddenly, the alarm blared, lockdown. I figured the school was just doing one last drill before summer break, so I stayed hidden under a computer desk. But then I heard it, screaming from the hallway. Real, terrified screaming. Then silence. My phone lit up with texts from classmates. "Where are you? It's real. There's a guy with a gun." My heart stopped. I was all alone in that massive room. Minutes passed, and then the library doors creaked open. Heavy footsteps walked in. I saw the beam of a flashlight cutting through the dark. I held my breath, praying he wouldn't check the computer rows. But he did. The light hit my face. I jumped up, hands raised, and saw a gun pointed right at me. "Ethan?" I blurted out. The shooter was Ethan, a guy I used to be best friends with in middle school before we drifted apart. He looked broken. His hands were shaking violently. "What are you doing, man?" I asked, my voice trembling. I didn't try to be a hero. I just talked to him. I reminded him of who he was before all the bullying and the bad home life. I begged him to put the gun down. To my shock, he started crying and dropped the weapon. I kicked it away, and we walked out together to the police. Ethan had a lot of demons, and I know what he did was unforgivable. But I can't help but think, if it had been any other student hiding in that library, he might have pulled the trigger. I'm just glad everyone walked out alive.